Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About House. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, we're going to do an update to the Las Vegas real estate market.
Yes.
We're just going to jump in. Some interesting stuff happened in the last 2 weeks, and I have a theory about it. We'll talk about my theory.
Okay. So if you are watching from Las Vegas, stay with us and check out what's happening to our local market. If you are watching from elsewhere, be curious. Stay with us and watch what's happening in Vegas anyway.
Especially if you're watching from SoCal, because this might involve you.
That's
okay.
Right.
So we'll start here with the market narrative. This is part of the Market Action Index. What it says is the last few weeks, the market has achieved relative stasis point in terms of sales to inventory. However, inventory is sufficiently low to keep us in the seller's market zone, so watch changes in the Market Action Index. If the market heats up, prices are likely to resume an upward climb. Wanda, that takes us to the first little blip here. We'll go zip over to real-time market profile.
Okay.
Now, median list price has literally not changed. It's been $550 for about 2 months. What that means is of all the homes that week that came on the market, $550 was the median, or $549.9, literally every single time. Is that weird to have like 8 weeks, 9 weeks in a row of all these homes come on the market and the middle home is always that number?
It is weird. I mean, I'll give you that. It is weird. But it's also the time of year when it's kind of static. So it sort of makes sense.
Okay. The other thing, too, here is the median price of new listings. This is less because lower-end homes sell faster. So you have existing homes on the market longer at a higher price point. So that's where you get why you have two different numbers for this. That looks like it's bouncing around a lot, but that's actually a very narrow window. It's just maybe $5,000. But so the same thing, the new homes coming on the market, the median list price of existing homes on the market are basically all the same. But what's interesting is price per square foot, and I'll flip over here. It's gone up since January, 274 to 276. This is kind of normally a chill month, right? Why is that?
Right. So January is a pretty, like to your point, it's a chill month. People are recovering from the holidays. And remember, this has to do with closed transactions. So most people who are trying to buy a house want to close before the end of the year so they can get the tax benefits. So there's generally not that much happening in January.
Okay. Average days and median days on the market have stopped climbing because the market's starting to get started. Now, keep this in mind, too. All of these numbers are predicated on the most recent closings or properties under contract. But a closing today, which is where the price per square foot comes from, actually went under contract when?
In December or earlier.
Okay, so what's happening now in the market, we don't really know. We won't know till like March.
Right.
But this is interesting that from November or December to, January that, the market's it's getting going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sure. The other interesting thing too, if you look down to inventory, you see it popped a little. Mm-hmm. And we're going to explain why it did that. Median rent hasn't basically changed. It's about $2,300 a month. Okay, this is the killer stat. This is called relisted.
Okay.
Now, normally about 8 to maybe 14% of the properties that come on the market had been previously listed in the last 90 days. They were taken off the market and they relisted, okay? And you can see that back in 2020-21, when the market was super hot, there were no relistings. Why would people not relisting their house in 2021?
Because homes were selling.
So homes were selling. And then you can see here 2020 hit, 23. And if you didn't sell, you would take it off the market maybe for a few months and then put it back in the spring or whenever when it got hot. All of a sudden, Juana, since, say, 2 weeks ago, there have been a huge increase in people who have made the decision to put their home on the market in Las Vegas. What are you hearing from people saying about the LA fires and why all of a sudden they're putting their house on the market?
So 2 things. One, we talked about this back in November, December, when I said, lots of people were taking their homes off the market for the holidays. And they would come back on the market in January, February. So a good number of those people are those people who were previously listed within the last 90 days, and they're coming back on the market now that the holidays are over. The other, I would say, good chunk of people that Todd is referring to are people who maybe see an opportunity. They've seen the LA fires and they think, well, Californians are going to come over here in droves and they're going to buy my house and not be price sensitive. Maybe not. So I have a couple thoughts on that. First of all, the people in California that have lost their homes, number one, they're in shock. Number two, they're renting something in the area to kind of just get through the next few months and put their lives back together. It will be a long time before they get insurance settlements, before all of this is sorted out. So my take on it is that it will be later in the year when people will make the choice to maybe leave Southern California. Most of them will not leave Southern California. They will stay where they are because that's where their work is, that's where their families are, that's where school is, that's where their businesses are, all that sort of thing. Some of them will make the choice to relocate. And some of them will relocate to Las Vegas, others to Texas, Arizona, Florida, all kinds of places. So for those that are coming to Las Vegas, again, I've said this before, they're not coming today. They will come in the months to come and the years to come.
The other thing is, if their house burned down and they had a mortgage on it, they still have an outstanding mortgage.
Absolutely.
It's not like a lender's just going to go, oh, here's some more money to buy another house. Because you already have a house, you already have a mortgage payment. Your debt to income it burned down. Well, you're going to have to wait for the insurance company to clear this loan before we give you a second loan. Also, if you own the home free and clear, the insurance just doesn't cut you a check tomorrow. So you may not happen to have a bunch of money sitting around. The third thing is, if you don't have a job here and then you say, well, what do? You say, well, I own a business in California. Their chances they're going to say is, well, we don't have income in Nevada. So your income in California doesn't qualify you to buy a house here, because what a lot of people do is they claim they're buying a house here to live in, even though they live in California, have a job there, and then they get a loan, but it's an investment property.
Right.
And they're just trying to get a better deal on the loan.
Right. So that's part of it. Look, I mean, this is the post-COVID world. So that means that people have more flexibility regarding where they work. So perhaps their job does allow for them to work remotely. But if you have a business, and depending on what you do for a living, so for example, if you're a dental hygienist, I don't think you can work remotely. So it depends on what you do for a living. Depends on what you do for a living as to whether or not you can either work remotely or claim that you work remotely. So most people have jobs that require them to at least be physically on site some of the time.
Like airline pilot.
Like airline pilot.
Okay, this next one, average days on market. As you can see here, there's a normal trend. This time of the year, we're usually at the peak. You can see it already sort of turned the corner, and pretty in line with the normal market. This is a good chart to show the cyclicalness of the market. Usually those dips tend to be a little later in the year. Mm-hmm. Now this is a 7-day average, and also it does lag too, because this is basically when they record this when it actually closes. They look back and see how long it was on the market. Okay, all right. The next one here, inventory. You can see here now, I smoothed this out because if not, there's a little bump just short term, but this is the 90-day average of inventory. It's a better idea what's going on, and this takes out the bumps of a bunch of people putting their house on the market. But if you take out all the homes that just came on the market, we've got another slide to show you, you'll see that we're still in the normal trend of it's more likely that in March, April, there'll be less available homes because the number of buyers exceed the number of sellers, but we don't really know. Right? It would be very unusual. Even in 23 and 24, there were less homes available on the market to purchase in the spring than there was in the fall.
Right.
Okay. Wanda, here's the other big one. Price per square foot. We have heard since 2019 about the impending tank of home prices. And when you look at this chart, there's two things that I want to point out. Very interesting. Except for that little hump. You could take out the hump, because the hump was this surge of buyers trying to lock in sub 3, 4, 5% interest rates for a short period of time, blew up the prices. But if you go year over year, every month, like say every January, you can see that home prices are more. Their home prices are more today than they were last year in January. They're more than they were in 2023 in January, and they're more in 22 in January. They've gone up every year. The other thing too is this chart, the bottom of this is $150 a square foot. So if you stretch the chart out, meaning if you make it taller and longer, you see that home prices are just basically they're appreciating it probably, even with that bump and decline, they're still appreciating about 6% a year, which is pretty close. I know we had a run up there in 2021, but home prices are not do you foresee a home price crash because of some immutable thing that we can't put our finger on? Because we've been hearing about it now since 2013.
So home prices tend to appreciate 4 to 6% a year, for a very long time. Obviously, some years less, some years more, some years maybe they're down. But when you're looking at the totality of home value increases over the long run, it's 4 to 6%. Okay, so that's pretty fair. As far as a black swan event, I can't speak to that, but I can say that currently there are lots of good things happening, and it's more than good things happening. It's a sentiment, a certain amount of optimism, a certain amount of energy, so to speak, in the air of people feeling that we have some good things coming up for ourselves economically. I do appreciate that there are a lot of people who are concerned about inflation, and I don't discount the threat of inflation. I think inflation, taxation to me are the biggest thieves. So those two can always concern me. As far as interest rates are concerned, I know that the Fed had talked about pausing the drop in interest rates, but now there's talk that maybe they'll consider a drop. Regardless of what the Fed does, there's a lot more at play than just the Fed. I think the Fed just is the person under the spotlight, so to speak, but there's so much more going on in the economy that actually has to do with what drives mortgage interest rates. So I think that we need to look at the totality of our economy versus just what the Fed does.
What's your outlook for the spring? You kind of have your finger on the pulse of what you're seeing, like behind the scenes, like talking to agents, talking to clients. Are you seeing the normal, like it's picking up, or what are you seeing?
Right. So open houses are getting a lot more traffic. So that's an indication that buyers are out there shopping.
Okay.
We're getting more offers, which again, that's an indication of buyers out there shopping.
Okay.
We are getting more listings, which you wouldn't think of it, but listings actually also mean buyers, right? Because when somebody sells the home that they live in, they generally have to buy something else if they haven't already. So we're getting inventory, but we're also getting buyers. So again, I foresee a really robust spring with a lot of transactions and people just ready to move forward in their lives.
Good. The last thing I wanted to point out was another chart not on here, but basically that the top end of the top half of the market is pretty stable. Maybe slight increase in listings versus sales, but the bottom half of the market is more sales than listings.
Right.
So which is
pretty typical.
Which is pretty typical.
Right.
And then median prices were about $550. Mm-hmm. That was like median price of a home. We use price per square foot on this chart, and I'll tell you why. In 2022, during that run up where I just showed you the run up, the actual home price, median home price looked to be a bigger drop than it really was because what happened was the people getting loans were buying larger houses in general. And then what happened was when the interest rates went up to like 6% over the course of 4 or 5 months, the most of the people getting homes were in the lower end. So the price of a median home didn't change as much, it only went down 3, 4, 5%. What really changed was the mix of homes that were sold. So that's why sometimes we can't look at the median price because the median price is misleading. If more higher end homes sell, median prices are up, doesn't mean all home prices are up. It's better to look at price per square foot. That gives you that like tears through the whole market and averages everything out.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So if you live in Las Vegas, leave us a comment and tell us what's going on in your neighborhood because real estate, as we know, is hyper-local. What's happening on one block is not happening on the next. And if you are from elsewhere, let us know where you're watching from and what you got out of the video. We want to make sure that you guys are engaged in our videos so that we can provide videos that interest you. We appreciate you watching. Please remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.